Hi, in this video we'll be comparing the size of fractions. So for example, order fractions from least to greatest, order fractions from greatest to least, what's the biggest fraction, what's the smallest fraction. Questions like that we are going to approach in the way that I'm going to show you in this video. So in order to arrange fractions by size, if they do not have the same denominator, the easiest way to see the size order is to convert them to decimals first. So we have a few fractions here. We have one here, and one here. And in order to compare the size, we're going to first change them to decimals. So if you have not yet watched my video on converting fractions to decimals, I would go ahead and do that now, because the pace at which I am going to do it in this video is a little bit faster than I would if I were showing it to you for the first time. So let's go ahead and change 5/4 to a decimal. And I am aware that it is negative 5/4. However, I'm going to leave that negative sign off for now and put it back at the end. All right, so we have negative 5 divided by 4, or 5 divided by 4. So the 4 goes here, the 5 goes here. 4 into 5 goes one time, and there is a remainder. To figure out what that is, we multiply 4 by 1, and the remainder is 1. All right, but we're going to extend that number because we want the actual decimal, and we're going to bring that 0 down. And now we have to ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 10? 4 goes into 10 twice, but there is a remainder. To figure out what that remainder is, we do 4 times 2, and we get 8, and the remainder is 2. All right, so we're going to keep extending that number. Oh, one thing I forgot to do, we have to line up those decimal points. So right on top of that extension here, we have to have a decimal point here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and bring that down, and we get 20, and 4 into 20 goes exactly 5 times. We know that because 5 times 4 is 20, and when you subtract, there is no remainder. All right, so our first decimal, I'll put it on top of negative 5/4. Our first decimal is negative 1.25. All right, so we're going to use that when we're ordering our numbers. All right, let's do the second one, which is 5/2. So we're doing 5 divided by 2, and that looks like this. We have 2 over here, 5 right here. 2 into 5, you get 2, but there is a remainder. To figure what that is, 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract, we get a remainder of 1. We keep going. Putting that in yellow. We're extending the number, so I put 0.0. Bring that down, and we get 10. 2 into 10, you get 5, but remember we extended that number, so it's 0.5. All right, hopefully that makes sense to you. If not, definitely go back to that video. All right, so that is 2.5, and we have just one more to convert to a decimal, and that is negative 13/3. And like the first conversion, I'm going to leave that negative off for now and stick it back on the end. Okay, so 3 into 13. All right, so we know 3 doesn't go into 1, but 3 does go into 13. 3 goes into 13 4 times. So 4 goes there. There is a remainder. To figure out what that is, we do 4 times 3, which is 12, and subtract to figure out that the remainder is 1. But we're going to extend that number a bit because we do want to see what it is as a decimal. So now we have 3 into 10, and I'm going to remember to line up those decimal points. 3 into 10, you get 3, and there's going to be a remainder. So to figure out what that remainder is, we do 3 times 3, we get 9, we subtract, you get 1. 1 is the remainder, but I'm going to keep going. All right, add another 0, bring that down, and we have a 0 here. 3 into 10, we already did that calculation. We got 3. And 3 times 3 is 9, and the remainder, again, is still 1. So we're going to find ourselves in a bit of a loop here. 10, well, let me point here. 10, 9, the remainder is 1. Add the 0, get 9 again, remainder is 1. If we kept going forever and ever and ever and ever, we'd end up having a 3, a 3, a 3, a 3, and we just keep going with those 3s. So we have found ourselves a recurring decimal, which is always fun. So we're going to write that down as negative 4.3 repeating. All right, so now we have enough information to arrange these in size order. So starting from the very smallest one, the very smallest one is the one that is most negative. So it is the most negative number, the highest negative, I guess you could say, would be that negative 4.3 repeating, which is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and cross this off, and then we'll write that down as the first thing in our answer, negative 13 over 3. All right, so then you want to move on to the next most negative number, and the next most negative number here is our negative 3. So I'm going to go ahead and cross that one off, and we're going to keep going. The next most negative number is our first number on the original list, this guy right here. And so I'm going to write that down as negative 5 over 4. And there's still one negative number, so that is the next one, which is negative 0.2. Now we can go into our positive numbers. And so the smallest, or the smaller of the two positive numbers, is this guy right here, which is 5 over 2. And then finally, our last number here is 4.31. So now we have arranged our numbers from least to greatest.